Well, I'm here at NAMM 2015. My name is Logan Erickson of Low Gain Electronics, showing off a couple of new modules. We've got the DAC8 sequencer line, which is a new spin on kind of your typical linear sequencer. Instead of a clock input that would advance your stage just by every pulse, you have 3 inputs. Based on the status of those inputs, it kind of tells you, based on the status of these inputs, it'll advance. It won't advance the circuit, but it tells the schematic, or the, God, I don't even know what I'm saying now. Based on the status of the bit inputs, it'll go to that stage of the sequence. And so you can run it in a linear fashion if you have like a binary dividing clock divider, but it's kind of not, I don't really have fun doing that with my design, so I don't want a typical linear sequencer. So you have manual switches to kind of, if you want to manually go to a certain stage in the sequence by just throwing these switches. Very simple to do, but you've got external gate inputs to do the same function. And when you use those external bit inputs, it'll start jumping around, typically producing a sequence that you otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to come up with. Or you could, but it would take quite a bit of time to do it, so you get a lot of happy accidents happening. Each of these bit inputs has a switch to allow you to switch from momentary or latching, which can prove to be a lot of fun, because just by throwing a simple little switch, it'll change up the sequence pretty significantly. The CD out has a switch that allows you to switch between 2.5 volts, 5 volts, and 10 volts. The gate portion of the sequencer allows you, on each of the stages, you can choose between a trigger or a gate, which will hold high for the entire length that it's on that stage. There's a reset, which will reset all of the bit inputs if they're held high at the moment. There's also an enable input, which will allow you to have some fun kind of shutting the sequencer on and off. The SEQ X1 and 2 are the CV and gate expanders, which you can essentially expand as many of these as you want onto the DAC8. They allow you to have extra CV and CV outs in parallel with the sequencer, as well as gate outputs. So it doesn't extend the number of stages that you can have, but it allows you to just have more, essentially, rows of CV for extra modulation to different sources. On the CV expander, it's a little hard to see. On the CV expander, you have the same voltage selection out between 2.5, 5, and 10 volts. There's also a transpose input. On the gate expander, which the panel is subject to change due to some simple mistakes of trying to get ready for NAMM. But anyways, you get the same functionality of the gate sequencer on the DAC, but you have an inverted output. So if the main output is high, the NOT output is low. If the main output is low, the NOT output is high, if that makes sense. So it's a mirror. It's the opposite of what the main output is, which is a lot of fun. One thing, I forgot to mention, on the DAC8, you have individual gate outputs for the stages, which allows you to trigger various things, that whatever you want, really. But what I like the idea of doing is using the stage outputs to feed back into the bit inputs to basically kind of do feedback pattern generation, which can be a lot of fun. It's very easy to change up the sequence without even, once you kind of set your CV amounts, your control voltage amounts, it's almost easier just to change your gate, your clock sources that are changing the status of the sequencer. It's almost more fun just to play with those and just play with the input switches and whatnot, because it's so easy to just change up the pattern. Moving on to the other module, the control voltage processor. It's a little hard to see, but it's basically a 1 in to 3 output with bipolar attenuation. So you can flip the phase of whatever it is that you're running into it. This works with both audio and control voltages, and there are 2 of them. The inputs are normal to 5 volts, so if you don't plug anything into it, it acts as a 5-volt source that you can flip the phase on, so you can run, you know, anything variable from plus 5 volts to minus 5 volts of a steady voltage source. And then in the middle of the module there is a mixer section that has a sum output, which will add channels 3 of both sides of the module. And it's a lot of fun for adding either like voltage offset to signals, either plus or minus 5 volts if you have nothing plugged into one side of this module. You can also use it as a little mixer if you wanted to. And there's also an OR output, which gives you kind of a it's a combined output, so it'll ignore all negative voltages, and whichever voltage, and this is primarily for use for like control voltages, so whichever voltage is higher on the third channel of each side, that voltage will take priority. Similar functionality to the short bus if you were to run control voltages into it instead of gate signals. So that's going to be a lot of fun. The CVP1 should be available by the end of February. We're still working out a lot of the kinks on the DAC series sequencer, so it might take a couple of months to get that one out into shops, but I'm really excited to kind of get that one out because it's going to be a lot of fun. I've been kind of telling people it's a happy accident machine because you can really get some really great patterns being generated by it. The other module that just came out last month was the Submix 6, kind of backed by demand. One of my first products was the Submix 7 that I discontinued due to a knob shortage. I brought it back in a form of the Submix 6. It is half the function of the Submix module, which it's 2 3-input mixers. It's a dual 3-input active buffered mixer with a sub-mix output, so it can be either 2 3-channel mixers or 1 6-channel mixer. That's currently available as well, like currently. The CVP1 and Submix 6 both are going to be retailing at about $199, and the DAC series sequencer and expanders the price is subject to be determined at this point. But I hope these will be out in the next couple of months. That's just about it. So thank you for checking them out.